Hey everyone. So I wanted to talk about this tool, ChatDoc, and um, just kind of talk about some of the pros of using something like this to look at BIM execution plans, um, and then talk about some of the cons to consider in tools like this, and then also some other options. Just as a disclaimer, or just to be upfront and straight about it, like I wouldn't probably use a tool like this for reviewing BIM execution plans. However, I do think it's important to test these things and look at workflows and see what might work. I think tools like this can be used to review maybe other types of documents, but not necessarily BIM execution plans. And I think that's what is going to be helpful in this video. So I definitely recommend checking out these cool chat tools that are out there. I just want to share my perspective on using it to look at BIM execution plans. This came up on LinkedIn, and somebody had shared it, and I can't remember who, but they mentioned using these things to review BIM execution plans. And I recently had to review a BIMx plan. My personal take on it is like I want to just go through all of it, especially on the client side. Well, I receive BIM execution plans from clients, and I just want to make sure to go through them. That way I understand that way I really understand what's in there. I don't think tools like this can do that very well. However, I do think it can be helpful to summarize things or even to extract certain things out of it a little bit quicker. So I could see where it might speed things up. But even then, I wouldn't leverage something like this. Okay, so with that said, I think it's important to talk about some of the pros. Then I will talk about some of the cons, and then I'm going to just ask this some questions, and then I'll talk about. I was going to talk about alternative options, but really, I think manually reviewing documents is really the best alternative option. Outside of tools like this, you might have another tool that specifically looks at BEP plans. In that case, it's hard for me to see an application for that just because I receive so many different types of BIM execution plans that are worded so differently from one another. So, anyways, that's kind of it. We'll start with pros, cons, and then I will ask this some questions. And so, before I get into that, ChatDoc is free. You can download it, or not download it. It's a web app. You can go to it, set up an account. That's easy, just your email and some password. And then you have to upload your document. So I would say be a bit sensitive on what documentation you upload up there. So, with pros, I think this makes information a little bit easier to access. So, you can make it quicker. Now, in this particular document, and before I go any further, I want to mention I got this BIM execution plan here. I've uploaded it into this tool. I got this BIMx plan from LinkedIn Learning. It is from Brian Myers' class or course on LinkedIn, and so check that out if you're interested. I totally recommend it. He has many other really awesome courses I recommend, but anyways, this is where I got it. And And so if you wanted to test a similar thing, you could go there and grab it. So if you have a LinkedIn learning license. So this is what I've got. I've uploaded it in there. When you upload it, it takes a few to go through it, and then or to like pull all the data out, and then from there you can ask questions similar to ChatGPT. And it kind of starts you off with some questions here, and if these matter to you, you can click on them and it will generate it and kind of tell you what pages things are on, but it doesn't do a wonderful job on that just yet. I could see things like this evolving over time and becoming really useful. So easy to access, could save you time. That's a pro. I think if I'm using a tool like this, the goal is to save time. You could collaborate on this tool, or like with a tool like this, and I didn't really think of that as a workflow until I listened to, there was a LinkedIn learning course that discussed using tools like ChatGPT, and how to write prompts to get the best results. And I didn't think about how to use ChatGPT to collaborate with people until he mentioned it and talked about how you can have a discussion around a certain topic and ask certain questions and then review those things. I haven't done something like that yet, but it sounds interesting. So you could possibly collaborate with this tool going through a document. Another pro, which I think is pretty useful, is people that aren't super familiar with BEPs. Maybe it's a designer that hasn't ever really looked at one before. Having something like this on the side, I think, could be helpful. It could allow them to ask questions and get to the information that's important to them, maybe summarize things clear enough to where they understand it and it's easy to consume. Also, possibly using it to learn about things that they haven't experienced, they haven't ran into on a project yet. So I'm trying to think, like clash detection. Maybe it's the first time it's defined in the BIMx as something they expect at a certain phase. In that case, it might be very new to them, and so they could use a tool like this to dive into things like that and maybe get more information related to topics like that that isn't already defined in the BIMx. Some of the cons is, and I think this is a big one, is limited understanding of what exactly is in, limited understanding of BIM execution plans in general. Like not having that expert knowledge in that database to really answer and answer questions in a smart way with the data available from the document. And that could be dangerous for somebody that's reviewing one of these for the first time and doesn't fully understand the meaning behind the document, and then they use something that potentially could give them totally wrong answers. It could have problems with complex questions, and I've got some questions lined up that we'll test it with to see if there's issues. And I don't have like super complex questions, but we'll see if there's any problems. But you could imagine if you're asking something pretty complicated, it possibly couldn't, may not be able to pull that information out effectively. So maybe you want to know what the expectation is for clash. Is that also, are you the person responsible for it? What does that mean for you as the consultant? And so on. Maybe it spits out something totally wrong. confidentiality. So that's something to be concerned about if you're uploading documents into a database. Then you've got to consider that. Also, I don't know what the solutions would look like doing something like this on a server. It's just something to consider with these web apps. If you're uploading that data, make sure it's not sensitive data, because that's definitely a con in these tools. Is it's essentially going through and extracting all of that information. So something to consider, and I definitely think it's a con. So all right, let's write some questions. So I think something that would be helpful is formatting like milestones or just other tasks. And so we could do something like, can you format all milestones? Sometimes, and I think in this document, it might have the clash stuff defined, but on a lot of documents, they'll define like at what stages do you deliver your coordination and clash detection stuff. Also, some of the testing I've done, and I've only done this a few times, it didn't seem to have, didn't seem to do a good job pulling data into not data. So when you ask a question and then you asked another question, it didn't remember your previous question. So I don't know if that's always the case. I did notice that though. And it looks like this didn't seem to return anything. All right, let's give this another shot. So I'm not sure what went on there, but this looks better. So it looks like it's defining, essentially recreating this, these design milestones, and then we've got a separate table, it looks like, for coordination meetings. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Yeah, if we scroll down, see if we can find that. Yeah, so here's the coordination milestones. And then, yeah, that's where it's pulling that data from. So that's, that could be handy, being able to pull and extract all that. Extracting all of it so that you can then maybe use that somewhere else. I don't know. Again, I would probably, if I am using one of these, reference the document itself. This is another part that I noticed too, is that you can see here that if we click on one, it highlights the text, I guess, related to what helped it generate that response. I'm not super sure, but you can see here all the different things. And I'm scrolling through this, and you can see the different numbers highlight. So some of these items, like 10, I'm not sure how these impacted this output. All right, so now let's try to see if it can tell us all the things that might be important to me as the MEP engineer. So and the MEP engineer for this is MEP design. So that is this here. I'm going to put a space. Alright, so let's see what happens. Revit software version, responsibility. Model requirements. Let's see. So some of that here might be important for me as the MEP engineer. This is interesting. Select freely, ask instantly. So I wonder if you can ask questions about certain sections. I'm not going to look at that now, but it looks like that's probably what that is. So like I said, depending on the question, it's like sometimes it's not helpful. Also, I noticed that it's not consistent. You could ask it multiple times the same question, and it'll give you different outputs. And I don't think that's weird. That ChatGPT does the same thing. And I think this uses GPT or ChatGPT, the API. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't really dig into that. Also, I'm going to get this out of the way. Alright, so let's ask it to summarize those sections. Really, my thought is I should review the whole document. And maybe you do that as a MEP BIM manager, but as a designer, maybe this is a question that you ask. You say, hey, I'm the engineer, I'm a designer, I work for this consultant. What are the things I should be concerned about in this BIM execution plan? Coordination milestones, coordination meeting schedule, process, design model, use and requirements, software. I think all of that makes sense. The LOD, coordination sign-off. So a lot of these sections in here, pretty much. All right, now let's try to I'll see if this works, and if not, then you'll see what I mean, how it doesn't remember or doesn't track your previous questions. So we'll see. Yeah, so yes, which specific pages or sections would you like me to include? So let's write this a different way. Engineer. We'll just make it very clear on who we are. So I asked it a question similar to this while testing, and it could not tell me the pages. It was telling me random pages and didn't make any sense. So let's see if that's any different. So we've got section 3, page 2 and 3. That'll be the BIM project team contacts. Which it's kind of close, even though it doesn't look like the contacts spill over into the next page there. It is right on the section. It's just, yeah. So it's wrong there. Let's see. Design model use and requirements. Page 4 and 6. So here is that. 4 and 6 are, or 4 through 6. So there's 4, 5, yeah, so you could see, like, because this is tracking LOD and stuff, but that's not the section at all. So anyways, I don't want to go through all of this and show you guys, but I think you get the point. I wanted to talk about this tool because I find it interesting. I think these are the tools that we use going forward. In the future, when they become better, I don't know if things like this would be used. It might, let me clarify. So it might not be used in this way, but I could see a really interesting use case where you have a tool that's smart enough to really know what you're asking. And so you could say, okay, I'm the BIM manager. I want to know all these dates and the things that impact me. And then can you summarize all of these things? So I've got a team of engineers. I've got a team of mech people. I've got some fire protection folks, some plumbing folks, and I want to take this document and create a more summarized version of this document that's easy for them to consume and highlights the things they need to consider during the life of this project. What will help them plan better and be prepared for things during the life of this project. And so I could see something like that in seconds. It could spit out a summarization of a BIM execution plan that highlights the things that are important for HVAC designers or mech designers. And then for fire protection folks, maybe give them something separate. Maybe it's the same, but maybe it's something separate because there's fire protection specific things in the document. So instead of handing over a 20-page document, which you have to consider whenever you give somebody these things, the majority of the time people do not look at them. So if you can make it easy to consume, easy and effective, I think that's the important note here. You're not oversimplifying it. You're giving them information that is valuable to them out of this document. So I could see something like that possibly. Anyways, that's really all I've got for this video. Just wanted to show you guys that. Love to hear your feedback on it, how you might use a tool like this. Join the Discord, the description's below. And that is really all I've got. And thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next one.